Welcome back to sessions 3.3. We're still on perspective and we're still asking the question, are you in the present? Are you in the moment? Are you right now? I'm going to ask you this. If you live in fear of the future, you'll continue to remain stuck. We're going to look at learning to know when you have moved into tomorrow and learn how to get grounded back in the present moment. Because living out your life in the tomorrow, your day never comes. You never get a chance to live today. Now, we'll cover some of that, what that means, but I can remember in the early days of my recovery of me going through a lot of what ifs, or how am I going to do this, and anticipating and trying to rehearse things that may happen that most often never did. But it kept me out of the present. It kept me from being grounded and centered. And this is what we're really going to. So this is one of the big things I have to work with clients. Either they're living in the past, which we just talked about, or they're living into the future trying to anticipate something in order to avoid it or be prepared for it. So they rehearse, they prepare, they run stories through their head and they rehearse it, and it keeps them in this agitated, high anxiety state. Now, step two is this whole process is maybe God can. Step two. Step two in the 12 steps. It's like, well, I can't. We talked about that in the last time. Well, maybe God can. And it's like, that step says, I came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. I realized that, okay, I can't. I've hustled. I've tried everything I know to do. And the God that I thought I knew, I had it all wrong. I can remember that in the last session I gave you that assignment, just listen to God. One of the things that I heard on a fairly frequent basis, the first years of doing that for me, was that Papa kept telling me, he said, Eli, I'm not who you think I am. Eli, I am not who you think I am. And when I could finally let down who I thought he was and accept who was coming, it began to help restore my sanity. This is what we're talking about, because trust and fearlessness in life and living in the present is sanity. Now, some of us work with this thing of God needs the help. Well, he put us here, I'm supposed to be doing such and such. Maybe we grew up in some kind of denomination or faith-based thing that told us we're supposed to hustle for our worthiness. They don't use those words, but that's what happens. Or God's not fast enough for me. I turn something over to God and says, okay, it doesn't look like he's getting things done fast enough. I'm going to get in the middle of it. I don't do well with that. Or I can do it. If not, then I'll ask for help. Or I should be strong. I heard that a lot of times, I should be able to do this. I shouldn't have to surrender this to God. I should be able to do it myself. And then if I can't, then we'll talk about that. Or it feels weak to ask for help. And if I have enough faith, why would I have to ask for help? Why can't I just do this? Now, all these stories in our head creates this huge burden on top of us. We feel like we're carrying the weight of the world. This weighs us down as we try to anticipate the future. Now, we're hustling for our worthiness. That's what I did for years in that formula. It's like if I did X, God would do Y and I get Z, and I hadn't gotten Z yet, so I haven't hustled enough. It surely can't be God's fault until that day in the backyard. Now I really was ticked. But we hustle for our worthiness. It leaves us in a state of major anxiety. Now, when I'm hustling for my worthiness, I'm standing outside of grace. Grace is all around us. Grace is available to us all the time. And yet, when I hustle for my worthiness, I step out of it. I'm not availing myself to what's right here for me. So if I open myself up to grace, then I'm going to find that through that whole process, I can set my mind free. It's not locked in a cage. It allows me to see options. It allows me to see me in life as God sees. It frees my thinking up. And the freer I can get, the more I can trust. Now, remember this. I'm just making a variation of something we did earlier. As you take this 4-breath exercise. So you take 40 breaths, slow breaths, and do the following. The first breath is be aware. What are you feeling? What's going on? Now, put all these losses one at a time into your cupped hands. You open your hands and you invite God to take it. And the fourth breath is just to look left and right, back and forth, just slow as you breathe. Now, keep doing this and add different things here. For instance, one of the things you could do with this is if you are fearful about something that may happen tomorrow, that's one of those things where you could put in your hands. You could offer it up to God and say, God, here it is. I surrender it. I let it go. That's a good exercise to do every day, all the way through, week after week. Don't just do it one week. Keep going with this. Now, we begin to open ourselves up and connect with grace that's right there for us. It begins to free her up. It frees our thinking. We're not locked into a story about ourselves that's not true. Now, as it provides freedom, we also avail ourselves to an opportunity of freedom to be who we are. We're more grace-filled towards ourselves. We experience more of God's grace, and we're more free to be ourselves. Now, you got a choice. You can continue doing what I did for a lot of years, and you feel like you're carrying the weight of your aura. Eventually, at some point, it's going to wear you out. You're going to hit a wall, just like a bug that hits a window. The world's going to come crashing. Or you can do this. You can surrender tomorrow's, you can surrender yesterday's, and somehow or another, God begins to shrink things down to something that's more manageable, something that you can do and carry. I can do this. Today I can do this. Thank you. Now, just think that through. What if you just did that every day? Now here's an assignment. I'm going to walk you through this, and I encourage you to do this. I want you to take time out. If it takes you a day or so, fine. I want you to sit down and write a letter to God, telling Him how and what you feel about these losses you've had. I want you to picture in your mind the weight of all these losses on your shoulders. And now, with your hands, take that weight and hand it up to God and ask Him to take it. Just hold it there until He does. Take your time, as much time as you need, and work through this.